Hello, and welcome to Talk This Way. I'm your host, Marcia Martin, and today we're diving into the essence of living the good life. In a world filled with challenges and uncertainties, how do we keep our inner compass aligned with happiness and fulfillment? What does it truly mean to commit to a life of purpose, transformation, and growth? Today, we'll explore the profound distinctions between being and doing, and how our mindset shapes our reality. We'll journey into the art of generous listening, understanding how to truly hear someone without the interference of our beliefs. We'll also dive deep into the difference between mere change and genuine transformation, understanding why one is fleeting and the other is lasting. Additionally, I'm excited to introduce you to the Marcia Martin Club, a platform brimming with knowledge, workshops, and insights that I've gathered over the years. In this digital age, it's a beacon for those seeking guidance, growth, and transformation. So are you ready to embark on this journey of self-discovery, commitment, and the art of truly living the good life? Let's dive in.
We are blessed to have with us today one of the most prolific influencers on the who's who of the most innovative minds in thought leadership in the last 40 years. She is renowned as one of the top transformational trainers and executive and life coaches worldwide in the arenas of championship performance, relationship coaching, communication mastery, and public speaking. And she has personally trained over 300,000 individuals and corporate executives around the globe to be more effective human beings. Some other bullet points that you might know her from is a founding member of EST, which is now known as Landmark Forum. Also, she co-founded the Transformational Leadership Council with Jack Canfield. She was knighted in 2008 for humanitarian service, co-founded and built an international fashion jewelry company, and has consulted and trained with senior executives at Hard Rock International, Warner Brothers, Capital One, Evian Water, Dannon Yogurt, and McCain Foods. Please welcome the CEO of Marcia Martin Productions, LLC, and our esteemed guest, Marcia Martin. Marcia, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Kimberly. It's just an honor to be here, and I'm loving the fact that you're doing this from Glenwood Springs, Colorado. I miss my old home of Snowmass Village in Aspen.
I know we've spoken about that a little bit, and it is just absolutely gorgeous today. And I know we would welcome you back anytime. So you just come visit. So you are now, and where in the world are you now?
I'm in Florida now, which is where the Hard Rock Hotel, casinos, and cafes have their corporate offices. And I've been working as an organizational development and consultant for their human performance development for their executive staff and executives for the last 2 years.
Wonderful. So Florida is another wonderful place to be. It's one of my favorite getaway spots. So
yes, it's warm.
We'll have to do some traveling back and forth. One of the things that struck me, Marcia, when we first started speaking at your website, you have a sentence about looking at the prison people have created in life that limits them from reaching their full potential. And that just so encompasses what it is that we're working on here in this Vibrant Living series. Can you explain a little bit more about what that might mean?
Sure. Well, perspective is an important thing. It's kind of where everything starts. So your assumptions and how you view things, how you see things, what you think it all means, what your assumption is of how it works, or what your perspective is the source of really how things show up for you. So your beliefs have a lot to do with what's possible in your life. And a lot of people think of beliefs as something that's true. Rather than truth being a perspective, they think of it as an event. And people think that the truth is what they were told or what they believe. And so they look at it as if that the things they see in life are the same things that everyone else sees. But the thing is that whatever you do see from whatever perspective or assumption you're seeing from, allow things to show up for you. And what shows up for you are either possibilities or obstacles. So, based on what your belief systems are, you can put yourself in a big prison and kind of limit what's possible. So I break through that with people and cause them and help them to look at some of the things that they took on and agreed to because they were told by their parents or their priests or their teachers when they were young, and they never considered it possible to even inquire into it. So it creates a box or a prison or a paradigm that we end up living in, and that limits who we are, what we can do, what we can create, who we can be in life.
Can we talk a little bit about where those beliefs might come from more specifically?
Sure. There's three major inputs when you're tiny, a munchkin, a little person. And one of them we say are your parents, but that includes your family. It's the water around you as if you were a fish. Your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your family that give you information about how it is. And mostly people don't consider that how it is for them is just that, how it is for them. They
Mhm.
consider how it is the way it is or the truth. And so when little people begin to take in input from their parents, and then the other inputs they have are how they are told what the meaning of life is, where they go to Sunday school, or their priests, or their Sunday school teachers, or their spiritual teachers, the whole realm of what life means and who we are, where we're going, how we came from it, all of that. And then our teachers and our educators who are really there to allow us to create success. So those major inputs, our parents, our teachers, our priests, so to speak,
Mhm.
give us information as we're growing up. Now, a little person, if you think about it, when you're little and your mommy or your daddy says things to you, like if mom says, you know, let the boys win, or if dad says, don't cry, boys don't cry, or all
Mhm.
sorts of things. If you can think of what you're told about how it all works, every aspect of your life from the time that you're little, when you're growing up, you don't
Mhm.
say when you're 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or even 6, you don't say, hey, mom, hey, dad, that's a great way to look at things for you. I appreciate that's what you're thinking and what you're doing. And, I just look at it a different way. So I'm going to choose a different method or a different strategy, a different understanding. We don't say
Mhm.
that. What we say is, oh, that's how it is. Now that's called an agreement. In other words, we
Mhm.
agree and we take in that. But as we take in an agreement eventually becomes a belief. And if we don't inquire into or really consider those beliefs, if they even work or we want to keep them, we get stuck in that box and start having limitations to the possibilities of who we could be in the world. But that's where it all comes from in the beginning. And then what happens, one more thing I'll just throw in here, is as you view the world and as you go through it, you see through those beliefs like a filter, and then you
Mhm.
make decisions based on things like,
Mhm.
how can I best be loved? How can I best win? And we make those decisions, and then those decisions become unconscious kinds of um, guides for us, or truant officers almost, that tell us that we have to keep those in place, those kinds of decisions. So you put all of that together, and we're in a mess, so to speak.
Yeah, can we just apply some real life circumstances? Like what kept going through my mind, and this is ridiculous, but what kept going through my mind were little things like, should the toilet paper roll go on upside down or downside up? you know, those are the little things in life that kind of create friction in relationships and stuff. But
Yes.
then there's also that guilt or that struggle that we have when we're kind of young adults and moving out into the world, and we've got these instilled beliefs about what our career should be, what our family should look like, but we maybe want to do something different, but then we're carrying a lot of guilt and anxiety because it's different than what's been ingrained in us.
Absolutely.
Is that the prison that you're talking about?
That is the prison I'm talking about. And Kimberly, the thing you said about the toilet paper isn't a small thing, because
Right.
essentially it's not whether you put it outward or inward on the toilet paper roll.
Right.
It's how you handle the conflict with the people you're in relationship with, and how you handle the conflict, how you say, no, I think it's this way, it's right, or you allow someone else to be right for a period of time. Those relationship kinds of beliefs, models, things that we've learned and been trained in since we were little are the things that get us in trouble and keep us in that prison. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of times we do what I call collapsing. So if you're in Colorado, so there's snow up on the mountains, and we have a word called snow, but there are distinctions of snow. It's not all
Mhm.
collapsed together into one thing, snow. We have other words that are distinct: powder, groomed, ice, even yellow. We want to know the distinction of yellow snow because, you shouldn't drink or eat yellow snow. But my point is, the more distinctions you have, the more power that you have. And a lot of times we collapse things. And one of the things that we collapsed are two words that are totally distinct, but sometimes we think they mean the same thing. And that's allow and agree. So if I'm
Mm.
allowing something, I can allow you to have a point of view and at the same time not agree with you. But if I think allowing and agreeing are the same, I can't allow you to have a different point of view than I have.
Mm.
Because if I think I have to agree with you to allow it, if I disagree with you, then I have to resist. Now, if I can't allow you to have your point of view, whatever it is, then I can never receive wholly what's going on with you. And that begins to be a push and pull kind of relationship, rather creating space, considering, allowing, receiving, and then having some kind of relationship that gets to be more than just competition and war. So there's a lot of things that go into what you're saying. But yes, even those little things like toilet paper signal a bigger kind of perspective that we don't notice that we have, that may get in our way from being successful in that relationship.
Mhm. How about, so we've talked about relationship and how that impacts, and really all of it is about relationship because that's what we do
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
existence here on this planet. But I think I'd love to explore a little bit about how I'm stuck, not me personally, but at times in my life, certainly stuck in a position that I don't really love. I don't want to be there, but I feel like I have to put food on the table for my family, or I have to um, move through this process to get to the next thing, and I'm just miserable.
Mm.
How does this impact that place? And how can we open that up and see it differently and create more opportunities for ourselves to really thrive?
Great question. Now you have just opened up a Pandora's box.
That's what I do.
No, you do it well, girl. You do it well. Um, you're talking about a perspective of how things are created.
Mhm.
So if a person thinks they have to have money and they have to work hard in order to be happy, what you're saying, your perspective is, your assumption is how things are created. Happiness, for
Mhm.
example, comes from what you have and what you do. But there's a different perspective. And if you look at the universe and how things actually unfold, if you actually observe how things grow, how things create, how things come into existence, what you will notice is the flow of something coming into existence doesn't go have, then do, then be. It goes be first, then
Mm.
do, then have. So, what we're talking about really is commitment. So, people look to see what they can be committed to. So, if I'm being committed, the nature of commitment is such that you have to commit first before you do anything and before you have anything. In other words, the circumstances that exist in the beginning have nothing to do with whether you commit or not. But people don't operate that way. They operate as if they have to look to see if they have something before they can commit. So if somebody says, well, are you going to increase the sales of the organization by 10% next month? Or are you going to make sure that we have a home that we really love? The first thing that people look at is, well, let me see if I have what it takes before I can commit to that. Do I have enough money in the bank? Do I have enough good people on the team? Do I have the right budget? Do I have the right people? And then they'll say whether or not they will commit. But the nature of commitment and how all things are brought into existence is that you have to be it first. In other words, you have to be committed, take a stand. So I'm committed to be happy. I will figure out how along the way. I will create the intention and cause the dream first. And then what will happen is I can cause the circumstances to exist. Now, that means your commitment determines the circumstances. And most people live their lives having circumstances determine their commitment. If you can get that particular flow right, and you can have perspectives that work rather than being limited by your beliefs, then you can start creating lots of things. You don't have to anything. It's always about choice.
Do you have any tips on changing your perspective or broadening it, should I say?
Yes, I do. Actually, first of all, if you consider a perspective that might work better, is it's possible and they're brilliant. So that creates some generous listening. In other words, when I listen to a person, usually I'm being judgmental. And
Yeah.
usually I'm saying to myself, well, what happened last time? I know it's going to happen this time. He's a jerk. She's lazy, whatever. It's probably going to be the same. So we look through our old past experiences, and that's a very small space. We call that our already listening. It's already there before the conversation even starts. If you can say to yourself, I'm now going to be in life a listener who listens this way. I'm going to consider they're brilliant, and I'm going to consider whatever they're saying is possible. I'm just going to start there. That's a lot of space. Now, if we can create that space to relate with other people, then other things can start opening up that can cause some of these things that you're talking about that bring happiness or that allow us to do things that are productive in our lives.
How do you find balance between that way of being open and being generous, as you say, and that fear, I think, that people have of being fooled?
Well, here's the thing. Human beings have three things we call they're thrown to. In other words, automatic kinds of behaviors. You don't think about it in the morning. It's just the way you are when you get up. You are thrown to want to be right, look good, and know the answer. In the morning, you don't get up and say, today I wish I'm really a jerk and I don't have any answers and I'm totally wrong about everything and I look stupid, right?
Right, right.
So we pretend even when we're not authentic because we're thrown to having to look good, know the answer, be right. And that limits us. If we can be willing to consider life as an adventure, be curious about it, and be willing to be a beginner. Beginners, you know this because you're in the mountains and you ski, I'm sure. And in the first time you skied, you didn't go up to the black runs, you went to the bunny hill. And you fell down 100,000 times before you got the hang of it. But you didn't try to pretend you were a great skier because you would have killed yourself. So on some things, we're willing to be a beginner, but we're not willing to be a beginner in relationships, in showing up, in how to be a good leader in a meeting. All of the things we think we're supposed to know, we don't really know. We learn to be expert at things, and we have to be willing to be a beginner in the beginning. And if we're willing to take on that ability, have it okay to be a beginner. I always say every time I make a mistake, I pat myself on the back and say, wow, what a good job you did as a beginner, because beginners are supposed to look stupid, make mistakes, do it wrong, and not know the answer. And boy, did you do good in that time. And, that opens up some freedom to be able to see what works, not have to pretend that we know what works.
Mm-hmm. You talk about the flow. How can someone get in the flow when this is all so new?
Great, great. You have good questions, girl. I like
I had
this.
a little help.
I love this show.
Little help. That angel on my shoulder.
We have what's called an internal guidance system. It's our emotions. Most of us think of our emotions as a hassle and something we don't enjoy, but our emotions are really set up. The feeling good or feeling bad about something can be the breadcrumbs along the way to show us if we're going the right way or not. So if you don't need to know too much about emotions, except sometimes you feel good and sometimes you feel bad. Now, that's one way of experiencing your emotions. Yes, there are events that cause us emotions that cause pain and grief and all of that. I'm not talking about that. But what I'm talking about is you're going along in life and all of a sudden you don't feel good. You feel bad. You feel low. You feel something's wrong. You feel not enough. You feel unloved. You feel all of those kinds of things. If you could just stop and then notice, what am I thinking? And what am I doing? And then think a different thought or do a different action, because your emotions are showing you're on the path of flow or not. Flow is
Mm.
effortless. Flow feels good. Flow is like you're on the river. Now, you're going to go up and down, but you don't go up and down in a resisting kind of way. You go up and down in a balanced, centered kind of, I can do this, and up and down. It's like being on a surfboard or being on a ski when you're coming down the mountain, and you flow with the moguls, you flow with the waves. You don't resist them. You don't try to make them different than they are. You go with the way that it's going. And when you get used to doing that, and you can tell if you're doing it or not, if you're feeling it's a struggle, lots
Mm-hmm.
of effort, you're feeling like you're pushing something up the hill. Yeah, that's not the way it should be. Try something else, because life isn't like that. Life is a flow. It doesn't mean it's not up and down, but
Mm-hmm.
where the river goes, even if it's raging, then it's going in a particular direction. Ride the horse in the direction it's going. That's called flow.
So that's that space where you know that you're living your best potential.
Yes, and things begin to get more and more effortless.
Mm.
I've been working with the Hard Rock hotels here in Florida for the last 2 years. And how that started didn't happen with a proposal. And it didn't happen with figuring out who I should call and making cold calls. And it didn't even happen with a referral. It happened that I was with a friend with dinner, and he had another friend there, and his friend and I started talking, and we were laughing. And he asked me, how do you know our friend? And I said, oh, I've been working with him for a lot of years, and he calls me his secret weapon. Now, you know what the guy did? He said, oh, really? Well, here's my business card. Call me on Monday. That's called flow. I was
Right.
like, because I look at the business card, and, oh, he's the senior vice president of hotels. So, things can happen like that. You can be in the right place at the right time. It doesn't need to be so effortful, but it can't be flowing like that unless you're coming from the correct way that things work. You have to come from your inner power. Don't get agreement from outside yourself. Go inside and ask yourself the question, is this authentic? Is this right for me? Is this the way that's contributing? Is this causing good? Is this in the flow? And then kind of pick up speed along the way. And pretty soon, if you keep doing that way of living, the universe gives you things that, it's there's what's it called? An alignment in the universe. The universe knows to put good things in front of you because you do good things with that.
Oh, I love that. I love that just thought
Yeah.
that when you do good things, the universe puts good things in front of you.
Yeah, we call
It's
that
when you're the expert,
yes.
then you get the work, right?
Well, we call that you're being used by a higher force.
Wonderful.
You see?
Wonderful.
And that's
Get in
flow.
the flow.
Right.
Yeah. There's so much more we could speak about. I know you have so much to teach, and I wanted to let folks know about the MarciaMartinClub.com. Can you talk a little bit more about what's going on there?
Yes, Kimberly, I've been leading workshops, seminars, doing speaking engagements all over the world. Like you said, I've trained over 300,000 people around the globe. And so my whole life has been about events and trainings and seminars and workshops. And people usually come to my workshops in person and have to pay $1,200 for the workshop and spend 3 days with me and get amazing breakthroughs. Well, I've been videoing these things all these many years. And what we've done now is we've created kind of a Marcia Martin Netflix or HBO on demand. And we call it the Marcia Martin Club. And we're taking all of my workshops and we're continuing to upload them. So it's growing and growing and growing. We're charging only $10 a month at this time. The price will go up as we continue to build it. But right now, it's just a way that you can come and be a part of the club and listen and watch my videos, my workshops, my podcasts, my speaking engagements, and get the same kinds of breakthroughs that people got by paying a lot more money and having to spend a lot more time. And you can do it at the leisure of your own time, in your own home, wherever you want, for $10 a month. So we're thrilled. It's getting raves and people are having breakthroughs all over the place.
That is an absolutely amazing offer, an amazing price to be able to go back into that archive of work for $10 a month.
It is. I'm amazed too.
Yeah, you're amazed. You're pinching yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that $10 a month. That's $120 a year. That's 10% of the cost of one workshop.
I know.
So,
well, like I said, it's not going to be that way all forever. And we're building programs and we're doing communities and we're building, and it's going to have so many wonderful things that people can experience. But here's the thing. I wanted to make the platform first, and I wanted to start getting the work out there. And this was a way for, instead of books and all of that kind of thing, that I thought this would work better in this day and time. And who knew we would be in this time of COVID right now where everybody wants to watch a podcast.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's called flow, Marcia. Yes. That's called flow.
It's flow. Very good, Kimberly. You got it, girl. There you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, sharing some of your knowledge. And I hope folks will jump on and take advantage of the whole book of Marcia Martin at MarciaMartinClub.com and really just immerse yourself in this goodness.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. God bless you. Thanks for listening to Talk This Way. If you enjoyed the episode, follow the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And for access to training, courses, and other ways to learn from Marcia, visit MarciaMartin.com. That's MarciA.